Hello and welcome to the next tour with
Ian.
Andia. Nice to see you today. We are doing episode 9 today with John Hooley from American Corporate Partners. And Ian's going to do the actual introduction because evidently I'm already messing up. So on to you, honey.
All right. Hey, John, welcome. So glad to have you here. As Andia said, John was my mentor when I attended a year-long mentorship program where John helped me out through American Corporate Partners to really get me prepared to enjoy life outside of the uniform. And yeah, well, I'm sure we're going to kind of dig into what that experience was and what it continues to be. And John and I would venture to say, have become very great friends. And
Absolutely.
post that, currently John works as a financial systems modernization consultant and is a longtime executive in the corporate world. So, John, welcome. And love you to take a couple of moments and introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. This is an incredibly important and interesting and informative podcast you guys have going on. And as Ian mentioned, he and I have known each other for I don't know, maybe about 2 years now. Have
Mhm.
became fast friends, and I'm happy to say that we've kind of maintained that friendship, and I look forward to maintaining it for a long time to come. As Ian and Andy mentioned, I do work with American Corporate Partners. I help to take on sort of a mentor-mentee relationship there with folks that are leaving the military. It's been very rewarding for me in many different ways. I've done it for about 12 years now, and I guess you guys will ask me a question about what drew me to it, so I won't get too much into that right now. But and the financial modernization systems consultant, yeah, I guess that's what I put on there. It sounds more official than it really is, but I work for a small business in the GovCon space, and really enjoying that, and enjoying continuing to do work like this to help veterans transition.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. And yeah, I know we're going to dig into a lot more of, as you mentioned, what drew you to this and why I think we became fast friends and all of this. So let's dive right in then.
All right. Well, you guys have already set me up for my first question, which is what drew you to be a mentor for transitioning service members and veterans? And also, what keeps you coming back? You've been doing this for, I think you told us 12 years, which is pretty impressive, especially when it's a year-long commitment. And I know you work with maybe a few at a time, even. So, what drew you to it and what keeps you coming back?
Well, and I got copious notes here, so hopefully I don't look down at my cheat sheet too often here. But when I was with a former company, they did a lot of work with veterans, had a big veteran hiring program, and I was incredibly impressed with it. And over the course of my 10 years with that company, I managed dozens of projects, hundreds of people, and dozens of veterans over the course of that 10 years. And it was incredibly rewarding to work with veterans coming out of the military. In some cases, they had prior experience in the private sector, and then they joined my company and joined my team. I worked with Navy SEALs, Marines that had served in Afghanistan, Army. I mean, the whole Navy. I have a couple of my best friends are Navy guys, and so I always sort of held in high esteem the military service and just the sacrifices that you all make. And when this opportunity, so that was sort of what I did from a company standpoint. But then I was approached to as part of this partnership that company had with American Corporate Partners to actually get into a more formal mentor role. And I jumped at the chance. Again, just the opportunity to help folks get some perspective on the private sector and sort of how to transition. And I also draw upon my own experience quite a bit too. I mean, I've transitioned since from that company, and then I was with another company for 5 years, and now I'm with a small business, as I mentioned earlier. And so, I do draw a little bit of that experience in my own transition to help, provide that guidance, feedback, and answer questions. And what keeps me coming back, Andy, you mentioned about, there have been several times. I mean, I don't know that I'm not that good at that many things, but I seem to be fairly good at this. And there have been American Corporate Partners has actually put multiple mentee relationships on my plate from time to time. It doesn't happen a lot. And, but I have been quite successful. I think it's been, maybe, I gosh, I mean, it might be upwards of 15 to 20 folks that have transitioned that I've helped to mentor over the course of the years. And I look forward to doing it for hopefully a long time to come. I like to think that I can continue to provide really good feedback and like with Ian's case, hopefully develop friendships as well. So
Sure.
there's no question about it that there's a dual benefit here. Not only am I providing, I think, valuable input, but and I mentioned it's rewarding, but it's also I learn as well through the process. To take lessons forward with me as well.
Yeah.
I think that's so, first of all, it's so awesome to have somebody that's not part of the military community feel such a desire to give back. And I just want to say, like, thank you, right? I know you probably hear this often, but I think your service back to the military community is so important and vital. And I just appreciate it so much. And you and Meredith have become such good friends, and I love that. But I just want to say, thank you so much for having that passion. It's awesome.
Oh, well, thanks to you for allowing me to be a part of it. Seriously.
Definitely. Well, that circle just keeps on giving, and we love it. So kind of to that end, as you continue to guide folks and you can keep that connective tissue, some of the things that I think are important, factors are how service members and their family members, things that they need to consider when looking at transition help in these services, such as American Corporate Partners.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best fit, and what would you advise for those folks in terms of like their wants, needs, and desires on evaluating the best program for them?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think I'll start off by saying that, there are a lot of organizations out there that help. And there are a lot of people, Andy, to your point, I'm not the only one, thank God, that wants to give back. And there are a lot of organizations and a lot of people out there that support those organizations that want to help. And I think that it starts with, some research and getting an understanding. And hopefully through this podcast, people will identify and be able to, at least, kind of ramp up their research in a more rapid fashion. But American Corporate Partners is just one of many different groups. Ian, I know that you worked with another one that I don't remember what the name of it was, for something, I think.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Black. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they all have their unique benefits. So I think, you kind of want to do that research, kind of get a feel for, what particular sort of things those different organizations excel in. I know that so I've worked with individuals from a variety of different, obviously, service branches and then different ranks and so forth. And I think that maybe some of that may play into it as well. Some organizations may be better than others. I think American Corporate Partners maybe focuses a little bit more on maybe more folks more advanced in their careers. But I think definitely doing that research is really important, and looking at the feedback, frankly, that maybe those organizations get. I know maybe not every mentorship is perfect, but these groups like ACP has resources they provide. I know you saw. We had our facilitator, whoever, whatever you want to call them, but they like to check in on us quite a bit, right?
They do, yeah. Well, I think it matters to them in being able to put a valuable model out there, right? And ensure that, folks from, I think, both sides of it, right? Those of us coming out of uniform, trying to seek somebody that's going to be a good fit, but likewise, ensuring that the mentors themselves are having, I think, that altruistic bucket filled in their own lives, and seeing that what they're doing actually matters as well too. So I definitely think that facilitation at that, I guess, the company level to ensure that the fit is good, that the model is sustainable and can grow. I think that's a lot of value add right there. You brought up a really good point there.
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask a question back to you. Did you use those resources much that ACP provided?
Yes,
Like some of the
absolutely.
documents and so forth?
Absolutely. In fact, every now and again, they'll send out the email blasts to those of us who have taken part in the program on, virtual hiring fairs or different things where they'll take, repositories of resumes, for example, and blast it out to all of the corporations that are part of that pool of resources and link people to different things. So I still get emails from them today. In fact, I still look in review and value the resources that they bring to bear. So yes, yeah, great question.
Another little selfish question: did they provide like a post mentorship rating document or
They
anything?
did. They did. I will tell you, it was more than 0 stars.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah, John, no, seriously, in absolute 100% seriousness, yes, there is a post mentorship survey that they put out, and it actually takes quite a bit of time and effort to put into it because they really value not just on the front end of making sure that the partnership matches, but
Mm-hmm.
ensuring that they have the best of the best. Like you, John, 100%. Being able to give back because it matters. It matters not just to the individual, it matters to the United States of America and our citizens out there. So thanks for being a huge part of that, John.
Yeah, love it, love it. And I'll say one last thing too. I think we talked about the fact that different organizations probably have their strengths, but it's as much, especially when you're talking about a mentor-mentee type arrangement. It's a two-way street, and the effort needs to come from the mentor as well as the mentee.
Yeah, true, true. You gave me lots of homework, and I appreciated that. Giving me lots of connections to research and people to talk to, to explore some of the interests that you were trying to help me figure my way, in this post-uniform life. Yeah, the homework was there, and I know we probably exercised more than the mandatory once a month. Particularly as I was going through different interviews and hiring processes. Sometimes it was multiple times a week. So I am.
Yeah, I was always like, oh my gosh, are you on the phone, John, again? Poor John.
What are you guys talking about now?
No, I know.
Wondering what
I'm
this
not sure.
extracurricular relationship is all about.
I'm really talking about work right now.
Golf and, whatever. Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty, though, I think, of an arrangement like ACP is that they encourage the mentors to engage not just on a professional sort of transition topics, but on the personal topics as well. And Ian, one thing you mentioned too, I think what's really nice about our arrangement is that arrangements like this, where you're introduced to people in the private sector or otherwise, is, and I'll talk a little bit about, I think you're going to ask me a question about advice. Networking is huge. And, I was able to connect you with others. Some of them were transition military, some of them were not. But I think that those conversations were really helpful.
I can absolutely attest that, yes, all of them were, even if it was, the ultimate end of that conversation or whatever the discovery part out of it was like, yeah, that was an excellent conversation. It absolutely informed what I don't want to do.
Right.
So I think that there was a lot of benefit there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, amen to that point. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I don't know if they call it like the negative, but like, you want to look at what you don't want to do as much as what you want to do.
100%.
Yeah. So we're just going to keep going with this, which is because my next question, as you already set me up again, which was,
Well done.
what is your single best piece of advice for a transitioning service member who's, leaving the uniform behind? So I'm gonna guess and say it has something to do with networking.
Absolutely. But I will say this. So, I did a little bit of prep and I watched some of your episodes. And you talked about job jail a couple times. And in fact, I have to thank you for actually mentioning my name.
Yes.
And I think it was Jason's
Yep.
episode. But I do think the biggest number one thing, and I do have a couple other things I can go through and I would like to go through, frankly, but the job jail concept is really important. It's no decision you make is ever final. You're not locked into something forever. I think even Jason even mentioned this actually. That don't be afraid to take your first job that's out there, and then if you don't like it, I mean, look, we live in America. This is the land of opportunity. It really is, and there's so many options, so many opportunities out there, and I think. One thing that I really want to, so networking absolutely is huge, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But I really like the sort of concept, and I see this not just with transitioning military, but with my time with the company I mentioned where I started the mentorship program with ACP. I mean, I would hire so many people who had like just non-related degrees. I mean, you think about like philosophy or English or art, and these people, I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 of them like got into some job that wasn't related and they were fantastic at it. Example I like to use is like data analytics.
Mhm.
People that had a completely unrelated degree, they came in and they were some of my best data analysts. I mean, I couldn't believe it. They were
Wow.
creating visualizations. And, so this is an opportunity, I think, for your listeners and people that
Mhm.
you talk to and help to transition moving forward is, hey, this is an opportunity. This is like an exciting time in your life to
Right.
define who you want to be, maybe for the near term, maybe for the long term, who knows? But if you want to be a data analyst, but you were, a security officer, right? Maybe you didn't do a lot of data. Maybe you didn't do a lot of budget. Maybe you were a budget officer in the military, but then you want to do something completely different. Maybe you want to do some IT.
Mhm.
There's a lot of training out there available online. You can learn Python. You can learn R. I mean, these programming languages. AI is a whole other thing that we won't get into, but it's an opportunity to define who you want to be moving forward.
Oh, most
I
definitely.
love I love that. I'm just going to interject
Yeah,
one quick
please.
thing. So it was really funny when I talked to my daughter, especially our youngest Mina, who was really unsure about what she wanted to do in college. She changed her major track 3 different times, which I did as well. So
She's not in degree jail.
yeah. But
Parents
I
got to
was
love that
telling
too, by
her,
the way.
yeah, we're actually really happy with what she finally decided because it's her passion and we knew it all along. But I think what was so interesting is, as I agree with you so much, we have at my organization, AMBA, we do a annual conference every year. And
Mhm.
I end up introducing about half of our folks that are on stage. And when I was reading their bios ahead of time, like nobody has a degree in what they're working in. There was
Right,
literally like one person that had a
right.
degree in what they were actually doing. And so I think that is a brilliant point. I'm so glad you brought it up. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I think that really segues into the next question that I want to ask you.
Mhm.
As an executive, a longtime executive in the corporate world, you already touched on it. You touched on passion, but I wanted to ask about qualities. What kind of qualities do you value in what veterans bring to the fight? And what kind of values do you think that veterans bring to the table that really you want to tease out that, folks that are considering this kind of program or folks that are transitioning and looking at jobs in the corporate sector, that they should capitalize on it, that they should highlight and bring to the forefront as they're in this search?
Yeah, no, great question. And some of this kind of bleeds into, and you're going to ask me a rucksack question, I think.
Maybe.
But uh, I'll start off with the word you used, Ian, passion. Anything that you do in life, especially as your job, you need to have a passion for it. You need to like it and hopefully
Mhm.
love it. And so, I definitely, I look for qualities of people that bring energy. I mean, you don't have to be like jumping, bouncing off the walls or anything, but like, I look for that kind of passion. I think in terms of military qualities, I really like sort of the structure, the work ethic, the confidence. Generally, I've seen there's a certain confidence that comes out of people, transitioning out of the military, and I think that I would also couple that with humility, and it's something that's really important. So you want to be confident in your role and what you do, but you also want to be humble and understand that you don't know everything. And I think that
Mhm.
that's an important quality that I think comes out of the military. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, Ian, but I think
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
Definitely.
qualities.
Yeah.
It's important, and it's also important to understand chain of command and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. But I do think when you get into the private sector, there's definitely a lot more wiggle room there. And so I think bringing a confidence and a passion that helps you to navigate that wiggle room is really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think to a lot of our, military viewers and those that are kind of thinking about this, I would say you're absolutely right. Having experienced all of that, right? Being able to allow yourself to go in, have confidence that you're going to succeed, but have the humility to be broken down a little bit and understand that you've got the chops to, quite frankly, pick yourself back up and overcome the obstacle. And that's the foundation of military service from day one. We
Mm.
we break people down to build them up better than they were before, and I think that's the key that you really hit on right there. And that's important. It's the value proposition, I think, of that service that service members can bring to anything they do on the outside, whether it's a blue collar trade or whether it's a white collar executive, in a Fortune 500 company, for example, and everybody in between.
Yeah, no question about it. And I'll pick up on that thread too about the breaking down and picking up concept. I think when folks transitioning look for different opportunities and they have different interviews and they talk to different people. I think one of the most important things is to look at the ethos or the vibe that they get in an interview, right? Because you want. I have to imagine, Ian, the example you gave. Yeah, sure, they're breaking you down, but they're doing it in a way that makes you better, and they're letting you know that all along, right? Like we're not here. There's nothing malicious about it. Is the point you're making? And I think the same thing applies in corporate America as well. I think you want to, and this goes to one of my points I was going to make as well. You're as a transitioning veteran, you are interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Absolutely.
And so, kind of get that feel, get that vibe of what that person looks like. Is there a connection there? Is there a rapport? Do you kind of get the vibe that, yeah, they're going to teach me a lot. They're going to make, they're going to put me through the ringer, but it's going to be all in it with an end goal of making me better and stronger.
Absolutely. And that is an incredibly important point, because as you helped me prepare for the multitude of interviews that I went through in the multiple jobs that I ended up having following my transition and my
we won't talk about that
service.
too much.
Yeah, but you know what though, the job jail piece of it, yeah, I wasn't in job jail, and it took a minute getting over myself, right? Being able to have that vulnerability to allow myself to be broken down a bit, and not stay somewhere that wasn't fulfilling certain buckets for me, for example. But bringing all of that together and having a stronger outcome is really the whole point of this mentor-mentee relationship. And the breaking down aspect isn't a negative thing. It's really just kind of, I think, breaking down the pieces of what really matters, to the individual, to the family unit, to the post-military career kind of aspect of it, and breaking it down to its finer points, and then building that individual into, I think, the most productive person on the other side of it, for what they ultimately want to achieve and what they want to be and where they want to thrive and grow. Yeah. So I really like how you kind of pulled the thread on that example there. So thanks for kicking that off in the beginning.
Yeah, I did want to mention one thing too, and I'm not sure that you have, but have you ever done a mentorship with a military spouse? Because I know they offer that as well. One of our previous guests, Andrea Sing Sauce, had told us that she works for American Corporate Partners as well, and that she has mentored military spouses. But I didn't think that you had.
I haven't, but that's interesting. I mean, I would definitely be open to it. Absolutely.
I think it's so vital. We talk about, and I mean, maybe I'm a little biased as a military spouse, but I think it's such an important part of the transition process because of my job and my employment and my career that I've built over the time that Ian was in service. It was able to make his transition a little bit easier, right? Because I built a career that then kind of took the pressure off him a little bit. Yeah. We also talked about that in Jason's episode, which I know we've mentioned as well. So, but I did think it was just important to put a little cherry on top there that American Corporate Partners does work with military spouses as well.
Well, if I could just offer, I mean, I think formally, while you may not have, John, done a military spouse mentorship, I would offer that what you said earlier in being able to go beyond just the formal aspects of, hey, here's what you want to do, blah, 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 here's what you look at. Yeah. But, the translation into getting personal with, the folks that are spending a year with you, that has translated. And I've seen where you two have had, multiple conversations in professional development lanes for the both of you, between the two of you. And I think that residual benefit, again, of these kinds of programs, and exactly why we, from the beginning talked about having you on this podcast to tease this out, just kind of underpins and underscores the value of what American Corporate Partners and these other different services offer to our military members, their families, and so forth. So thanks for teasing that out. Actually, you have mentored a spouse.
The military.
Yeah. And for that, I thank you.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just pick up too, I just want to say, how much I think what you guys are doing is so important in sort of getting the word out, and especially on the spouse side as well. And I know, Andia, you've done a couple episodes I haven't had a chance to catch up on, but talking about finances and all of that stuff is so incredibly important. It's more of the, maybe you call it maybe a little more of the boring topic, but man, you got to be able to manage your budget, and the spouses are a huge piece of that. And I don't know, I might actually let ACP know, hey, I'm interested in doing a spouse mentorship.
You should. I give you the thumbs up for that.
Definitely.
I mean, the conversations that we've had have been super helpful. And so, yeah, I sort of took advantage of you, but that's okay.
Hey, it's breaking them down to build them up.
Yeah, I'm expecting some, paycheck in the mail at some point.
Yeah. All right.
5 stars, John. 5 stars.
I'll take that.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, hey, John, again, thank you so very much for taking the time to really unpack what this mentor-mentee relationship is, how you've impacted so many people in this world because of it. And not just us, but, the extensions. It's the Kevin Bacon game and that ripple effect of how it all goes along. So, thank you for doing that for us and for continuing to do that for our nation. So at this point, I think we'll wrap up all the formal stuff, unless you've got any closing thoughts that you want to do.
The only other point I want to make, and this kind of plays off of a point that I think Jay France made in one of your first episodes, is strategy is important. Planning is really important. But you're never 100% planned, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a point that he made that I thought was really interesting was, take time for yourself. Take time to take a break. I always tell people, whether they're in a presentation, whether they're in a podcast, breathe. Take a chance to breathe, and understand that. I go back to that point. No decision you make is final. This is America we live in, and the world's your oyster. It really is. So.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, that is an excellent way to, I think, put a bow on it and wrap it all up. And you're not in job jail, you're not in degree jail. You have choices, you have options, and you can continue to grow every single day. So that's wonderful, John. All right, so now on to the fun stuff. We're going to play a quick game called What's in Your Rucksack. And the proverbial rucksack, of course, you pack it full of all kinds of things. So one thing I'd like to ask you, John, is in your career, what would you advise that people bring with them from their military service? And what would you advise that they purposefully leave behind?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I don't know if there's a whole lot I would say you leave behind in the military. I know in previous episodes you talked about some things, but let me start off with what I think you should bring. I mean, and we talked a little bit about this earlier. Bring confidence with a nice dose of humility. And I think that you learn that in the military and carry it throughout your career. And I think you definitely want to carry that into, the private sector. The private sector typically, and, it depends on the job you get into, but you have to stay nimble. You have to stay agile. It's a fast-paced, highly visible environment, depending on what level you're at. And I think bringing confidence and humility helps you to navigate, especially these days, right? A very evolving and fluid environment. I would say also too, I would imagine, and you can correct if I'm wrong here, but you throughout, especially as long as you served, and we won't talk about how old you are or anything, but
thank you.
But I'm sure you came across just multitudes of personalities in your military career, and you're going to experience the same thing in the private sector. And so, an ability to sort of navigate and to sort of adjust your style to different personalities, I think is really important. Leave behind, I think, the military is pretty structured, right? So I think, you kind of want to leave behind that mindset of, just taking orders and just, yes, sir, and I think you want to, obviously it depends on the job as well. And we talked a little bit earlier in the episode about, what organizations you work with and what jobs you look at. Maybe you want a job that's a little more structured. So then you want to kind of, tailor your, your transition activities to that end. Or maybe you want something where, I know you mentioned in a previous episode, Ian, about your leadership, and that's what you bring, a big skill set that you bring. But, it depends on the job, but
Sure.
I certainly think not, understanding and leaving some of that, sort of structure behind and staying nimble.
Yeah, no, and that's an excellent point, and I can emphatically agree. that is the case in I wouldn't even say just the private sector, but even the post-military government structure that I found in both of those worlds. Very flat organizations. Most people tend to be on a first name basis with each other, no matter where you're at in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
By and large, there are some exceptions to that I've found, but yes, being able to be nimble, flexible, humble, confident, all of that in the same breath is certainly something that you highlighted in our journey, and I think those are excellent points in the rucksack analogy there. So thanks for that, John. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, now I get to transition us to two truths and a lie. So this one's going to be fun for you because you get to guess from our last guests, which was guests, because we had our daughters on our last episode.
You guys are putting me to work here.
so you get to so I'm going to read Mackenzie's answers, and then you can guess, and then Ian will read Mina's. Okay. So Mackenzie, 1, she's shaken the hand of a prime minister. 2, she has her private pilot's license. And 3, she speaks conversational Russian. Which is the lie?
I think I know the answer to one of them is definitely not a lie. I'm going to say, what was the middle one again?
She has her private pilot's license.
That's a lie.
Very good. It is. She was working on it, but she did not actually complete it.
Not
yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
She did meet and shake the hand of the Prime Minister of New
Zealand.
Zealand.
Yeah.
Wow. So, is that the same prime minister? Because I had a little bit of a cheat sheet there as well, Ian. I think yours was about a prime minister. That's why I said that must be true.
That was actually his lie, though.
That was my lie. Sitting in a meeting with a prime minister. I've never sat in a meeting with the prime minister.
He has met one.
I've met multiples.
Well, yeah.
And I met a king and a queen, the king and queen of Jordan. And
I did as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was one of my multiple military opportunities.
Man,
so that's
amazing.
All right, so over to Mina. You get a second guess. Let's see if you can bat 1,000 on this one. Okay, so number 1, Mina has visited 26 countries. 2, she has written and been published in a military teen publication. And number 3, she was born in Hawaii. What's the lie? I think I know, and this is your oldest, right?
This is our youngest.
Yeah.
Oh, your youngest, crap. But I think, Andy, I think in one of your episodes, you said that both of your children were born overseas. So I'm going to say it's the Hawaii.
Actually, she was born in Hawaii. Yeah,
which is still considered overseas in the military.
That's not fair.
Excellent. It's a play on words there. Yeah. So funny story as a military parent, right? Every now and again, with moving as much as we have, and I'm going to kind of throw a little funny out there with the kids. They were pretty little, where as they talk to their friends in school or at play dates or whatever, our oldest was born in Korea, our youngest was born in Hawaii, and how they thought of that was, hey, I'm Korean and my sister is Hawaiian, which is not actually the case.
We had to explain that at a young age.
But it was pretty funny, So it's just one of those things of moving around all the time.
So you didn't tell them what her lie was.
Oh, the lie was she has not yet visited 26 countries.
I know she's been overseas quite a bit, though.
Yeah, she is just over 20 if the count is right. So she's almost there.
And so she was in a journal, military journal or something.
Yeah, she wrote for a publication. It's an online military teen publication called Bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Her
she
senior
did that in
year.
high school. Yeah.
Yeah. She wrote for that publication. It's run by the National Military Family Association. All right, John. Well, good guessing. You got one of 2.
Hey, 500 is pretty good in baseball.
That's right.
Yeah, it's better than Ted Williams. So.
Okay, so now it's your turn. So 2 truths and a lie. On to you.
Okay. All right. Just picking up on the military flavor here. I actually tried to join the military when I was younger, but I was disallowed because of a disability.
Okay.
I led the largest FOIA backlog reduction in U.S. government history. I played golf with a current Trump nominee.
Wow. Well, we'll reveal this on the next episode of the next tour. John, again, thank you so very much for all of your insight, your time, your mentorship, your continued friendship, moreover, and all the resources that you brought to bear today. We're going to hit all of these links in our show notes on the website. And share your LinkedIn contact information on there as well if folks want to reach out to you and learn a little bit more. So, again, John, thank you so very much. Can't wait to get together again with you and Meredith, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much, John.
Same here, guys. This was a lot of fun. And I look forward to, I'm going to be posting this on LinkedIn as well. So, really appreciate the opportunity. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
The views, opinions, and advice expressed by our guest on the next tour are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast, Andia, or any affiliated organizations. While we strive to provide helpful and accurate information, this podcast is for informational purposes only. We encourage listeners to consult with professionals or conduct their own research before making any significant decisions related to military transition or post-service life. The content is intended as guidance and personal perspective, not as official advice.